All right, so next up is our third part, or at least it would be. We would go to the next where we sort of compare and contrast and decide which one we like better. But we did kind of want to mention here, there is at least one other ending theme song if you dig through deep enough. And that's on the Korean edition. They have a different ending song. It's by a performer named, I think, Yoonha, and it's called, In My Dream or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know how to translate this. Bulbapedia is translating it as Inside a Dream. I think the one you found on YouTube Music was In My Dreams. So that's a question. But yeah, she's a Korean singer, songwriter, and apparently producer too. But actually got her start in Japan and had a lot of success through that market before she was able to make it big in her hometown of Korea. She's actually nicknamed the Oricon Comet for being able to just shoot up the charts like that. And I am so glad you hipped me to this song, man. This is so wonderful. I love it.
It's pretty good. It's got, of all the three songs we're talking about in this episode, I'd say it's probably the most energetic. If you want to do a continuum, you sort of have Ice Cream Syndrome, I Believe in You, and then this one. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, this one skipping about 5 steps in between. Yes. She's just such passion.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I only found out about this one really today. It does seem like it sort of has themes in common based on this translation I was able to find. Sort of with both of the other songs. There's definitely sort of the friendship and, being a part of each other's lives stuff here in this. It looks like it starts off mentioning something about the moon sets and the sun rising and stuff like that. So, I can see why, at least on the high level view, why it would have been picked up for this movie. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and who knows if it was made, how much it was made for the movie and how much it was just a tie-in. But I find a lot of little things like the sense of a clumsy self leaning on someone else's shoulders and then that's taken away and having to look out and trusting me and believing in me. That thread always gets to me. And there's a verse about under the same sky is everyone who's just like me, and it becomes so familiar and I'm only comforted when we're together. And then there's a sense of that being separated, but we're still together. So I get some sort of Zoroark images from it. Those are sort of universal feelings. I suppose many songs could fulfill that for me, but it is a nice choice, I think, of song.
Yeah. I'm glad we looked this one up and found out about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I guess now it is time to get to part 3. We'll try and consider all 3 of these songs, I suppose. As far as comparing them, like I said, we did sort of draw that sort of line there from, in terms of maybe, I don't know if tempo is a correct term to use here, but sort of energy and emotion. There's definitely sort of a line you can draw these as 3 points on, I would say. To be honest, I have to say, I like all 3 of these songs. These are all good songs.
Mm.
But I definitely think that I Believe in You is my pick if I had to pick one of these 3. The other ones are maybe, if this is a horse race, they're a length or 2 behind. So they're doing reasonably well. It's not quite a photo finish, I think, but I Believe in You sort of got me just because I really like Erin singing. I think she does a great job there. I hope they can bring her back at some point. That'd be really nice. But I think the energy and the chorus, to be honest, in sort of the pantheon of English songs, I think this is sort of just below that sort of nebulous area in my list. So in my list of the best English ending theme songs, there's The Power of One. And then right below that, there's sort of We're a Miracle and Make a Wish and I Choose You are sort of tussling for the second through 4th spots. And then I think this is probably not far behind that. It's maybe not as good as those. It's getting pretty close. And I think Erin does a standout job, especially given that this was much earlier in her career. I think I can totally understand after listening to this why she has gone on to do so well. And I think we're going to be seeing even more from her in the future. But with that setup, Anne, what are your thoughts here?
Well, to be honest, this is not my favorite Pokemon movie. And part of it might be just for whatever reason, it didn't strike me so much when I first saw it. And it's been one of the ones that's harder for me to have watched a second time. I've only seen it all the way through once. And yeah, so I'm not as tuned into the deeper meanings and the metaphors and the analysis that I love to bring to each and every movie. And so with that, I think it's harder for me to do an analysis on the songs. I like all three of them, but none of them really jump out at me and like, this is the movie. So I am going to give it to Miss Go Yeon-ha, whose name I probably can't pronounce, whose songs like I can't sing, but there's just such power behind her voice and such emotions, and I really do feel the lyrics fit as well as I Believe in You, which would have been my pick otherwise for how it connects to the movie. But yeah, no, I'm going to give it to Inside a Dream and not say much else.
I suppose so. Now, I should point out, we'll talk more about the movie later, but I should point out that I had a somewhat different experience with this movie than you did. Now,
I think you did.
I did originally see it on Cartoon Network, and they had this weird thing where they cut out, like, the first part, like 5 or 10 minutes of the movie for some reason. But not long after, maybe a few months later or whatever, I got a chance to see it at part of the Black and White Mall Tour. You may not remember, but for the release of Pokemon Black and White in 2011, they did this mall tour across the United States, and I went to the stop at the Mall of America near the Twin Cities and got to see it there. Now, the interesting thing there was it was a film projection on a theater that was mostly used for digital projection these days, and they didn't have the sound set up right for like the first 30 seconds to a minute there. They did get that fixed, and of course that meant I got to see the whole movie and then the end credits, and got to experience that way with the theater, not completely full, but pretty packed with Pokemon fans, which was
nice.
Obviously a different experience than seeing it at home on TV or on DVD or whatever. So maybe that's why I have a bit more of an attachment. And they gave you some nice stuff too. On the way out, they gave me a jumbo card with Zoro and Celebi on it, which was a very nice touch that they do things like that. So I think I had a bit of a different experience with this movie. That may be why I enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, that does sound really fun. Yeah, no, I was definitely watching it by myself with a friend's Japanese DVD, and was just, for some reason, like, the more I think about the bits I have seen, like, I do think I will probably appreciate this movie more in the future, but for some reason at the time, it didn't strike me as special and important in the way many others did. So I think I'm going to have to come around on my feelings in the future, but...
Yeah, like I said, let me talk a little bit more about the movie itself in a little bit, but we've got kind of more to talk about with music. This one does not have an opening vocal theme. It doesn't use, I guess it would have been We Will Carry On the English side, and then on the Japanese side, I'm trying to think what it would
The Greatest Every Day.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good song there. Yeah, 4th gen Japanese, I have to give a lot of credit. Just on the TV side, they do a pretty good job there.
There are some fun ones, yes.
But we don't get that with this one. It's a kind of it's sort of subdued, but they don't have a scene. I mean, I guess they could have played it over the TV showing of, I forget, it's called Bakker or something like that. The sport they're playing with the Pokemon there. I guess if they did an extended version of that, maybe they could have dubbed it in over there. Maybe that would have worked, but I don't know. What do you think?
I'm trying to remember. Like, I know there were a couple riffs on the Japanese side of, like, Hikari's theme, like Kimi no Sobere, By Your Side. There definitely could have been a place to have played the opening thing, over the Bakker match. So I'm very surprised that that's not what they chose to do. Like a full kind of bombastic opening theme remix situation that they tend to do when there's a Pokemon battle.
Yeah, so I guess that might have been the best opportunity they have. But
yeah,
with that being said, I guess we got to talk then about the score. So like I said, this is in 4th generation, so the Japanese score is more or less being kept with the English dub, other than maybe a few exceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I think sort of the standout part of this is obviously the reprise of Celebi's theme from the 4th movie, bringing that back. Obviously very nostalgic. Maybe a little bit of pandering there, but I think they did some pretty nice stuff with that. How about you, Anne? What do you think?
I agree. I think there was a throwback to Entei's theme from movie 3 as well. So, like, those are just nice touches.
I suppose so, but since that one was still using an alternate American score, I guess maybe that's why it didn't resonate with me.
That's true, yeah. Like, I don't know if they necessarily did that on the English side or not, but like those callbacks to previous legendary themes of Celebi definitely, like, are just really nice little moments.
But if I had to sort of criticize it on that end, we don't have, I don't think, a really memorable theme for like Zorua and Zoroark, which I think would have been a good counterpoint since they are, ostensibly the main figures of the movie. Yes, there's Celebi. Yes, there's the legendary beasts. But, those are supposed to be the, Zorua and Zoroark are the 5th generation Pokemon. This is the quote unquote preview movie, like movie 8. It seems to me that if Celebi gets a theme, it seems like the quote-unquote stars should have had a more distinct theme, too. What do you think about that?
No, I agree. They should have had it, even just as main characters, they should have had a slightly more recognizable or, something with a little more care put into it. Like, I don't even remember the musical riff for their theme. And you wouldn't do that to a main character of any other movie. So
it's just something I noticed. I mean, obviously, when you go all the way back to movie 4 and movie 3, like movie 4 on the Japanese side, and the English score is ported over there. That's when they started doing that. Celebi has a very distinct theme towards the end of the movie, not throughout the entire movie, but for that big climactic scene there. And, we've kind of lamented that in the more recent movies on the Japanese side, the scores have just not had that many memorable original pieces in there. And I think this movie sort of puts that on full display because Celebi has that theme and Zorua and Zoroark do not have a easily recognizable theme.
Yeah, like I don't really subscribe to the belief that like your soundtrack has failed if people don't walk out of the theater like humming part of it. But I definitely feel like if you're going back through the soundtrack and you're still feeling like you can't quite pick out whose theme is whose, or like you're feeling a sense of disappointment, that your soundtrack is a little weak. And I feel like this one, other than the way it weaves in some of the previous themes, it's a little lacking for me. And that's just quite sad.
Yeah, obviously kind of disappointing there. But, I didn't dislike the score, at least while watching the movie there. And like many of the more recent Japanese scores, I probably wouldn't find it as good on its own without the movie accompanying it. But there are some decent moments there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we had, I guess for once, maybe a shorter discussion here. But we do plan on doing another special episode, because this is, of course, the last Diamond and Pearl movie. And next up would be movie 14, that'd be the Victini movie. But in between generations, we want to do another little special. Now, I don't want to be too hard on the folks out there, but you may have noticed in the last couple episodes, the Arceus movie and this one, we didn't have a listener feedback section. And sorry, there isn't really a great way to put this. That's just because we didn't get any feedback, either on the movie we were about to discuss or even really previous movies. And we really want to include that stuff. And one of the reasons I point this out is that the original idea I had for doing between the 4th and 5th generation movies was, remember back between the original series, Movie 5, and Advanced Generation Movie 6, we did a special episode where each of us picked out a band that had never done a Pokemon song, and we picked a couple of their songs that we thought could work as Pokemon songs, and sort of discussed the band's history and all that stuff, and that was a lot of fun. And I wanted to do an episode where we discussed that, have some of our listeners pick out some stuff that might work, and do that in the future. However, since we haven't gotten much feedback on the last couple episodes, I really did not want to risk that. So we may wind up doing that in the future. So be thinking about that. If you have a favorite band that's never done a Pokemon song, and you can think of some of their songs that would work there, keep that in mind, and maybe even put that in the comments there for now. But our actual next episode is going to be a special episode, like we said. And we're going to be discussing European Pokemon music, specifically stuff for the European dubs of the Pokemon anime. And a few other things in there. Now, you may be thinking, well, gee, isn't all that stuff just translated versions of, like, the English stuff? Well,
it is not.
if you have listened to some of ours, if you know that, first of all, for example, Italian does their own thing for their opening themes through the first 10 seasons or so, and there's actually a couple others. I do plan on talking about a song called Du bist nicht allein, which was written and featured in, I believe, the German version of the second Pokemon movie. And there are a couple other special ones, but that's sort of going to be our next episode. So if you have anything European you want us to discuss that is either significantly different maybe from the English version or as an original song, go ahead, give us a comment on that, and we'll certainly take a look at that. And until then, Anne, thank you very much for talking to us again.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been Stephen Reich from the Pokepress Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, talking about the music of the Zoroark movie.